For instance, making the ball spin back over the net relies entirely on that short, explosive force from the fingers. Returning serves is the biggest challenge for amateurs because it demands a very high level of all-around skill. Even if your forehand, backhand, push, and flick are all strong, you can still struggle with the service return. If you don't anticipate the serve, you're essentially playing blindfolded, which makes it extremely difficult. To make an accurate judgment, you must first fix your lack of focus. It's like taking a photo where the whole frame is visible, but nothing is in focus. Professional players lock their focus on the area below the opponent's forearm, right at the point of contact. Just as you tap on a face to focus a camera, the first problem in anticipation is failing to focus on the key contact point. This prevents you from reading the motion clearly, making the return difficult. The second problem is inaccurate spin judgment. For example, you might misread the serve as a sidespin underspin. If you try to push it, the ball will pop up high, because a true sidespin underspin serve wouldn't react that way. This is what a real sidespin underspin serve looks like. The previous serve was a light spin or no spin ball, which is common for amateurs. It's neither pure sidespin underspin nor pure sidespin topspin. If it were a pure sidespin topspin, a push would send the ball flying off the table or pop it up very high. Most serves from amateurs are light spin. The return feels slightly high, slow, short, and has minimal spin. If you attack this ball, you might hit the net. If you push it, it will likely pop up. This is what we call a neutral spin serve, and it requires a neutral return. Many low, short serves are actually these light spin balls. The spin on this serve isn't heavy, its main threat is the low trajectory. You're making a mistake because you're being deceived by the opponent's rhythm. For instance, hitting a light spin return into the net is often because the contact timing was too late. Most amateurs think their short forehand return hits the net due to heavy spin, but it's actually because their footwork is too slow, causing a low contact point. If you can get close to the net and contact the ball at a high point, you can easily execute an aggressive long push. A short serve with a high arc is not a threat, because you have plenty of time to execute a long push after the ball drops. But against a low trajectory serve, if your footwork is even slightly late, any attempt at a long push will go straight into the net. Therefore, the key to a good short serve is keeping the trajectory low, not chasing heavy spin. Even with heavy spin, a high trajectory allows the opponent to flick it directly, let alone perform a long push. When the incoming ball has a high arc, I can flick it directly. However, if the ball's trajectory is low and my footwork is a bit slow getting into position, I tend to hit the net whenever I use a downward pushing motion. Because the trajectory is too low, a downward motion can't create enough arc to clear the net. You make an error because the stroke is incomplete. In recent matches, you'll see the most common serve placements are short to the middle and short to the forehand. Different levels have different weaknesses. Beginners fear topspin, intermediates fear long serves, and advanced players face opponents who can loop with quality. At higher levels, you must serve short to the middle and forehand, as a short backhand serve is easily attacked with a backhand flick or a long push. Some players plateau because their weak short game is exploited. Against a low serve, you hit the net, so you start lifting the ball, which just gives an easy attack opportunity. Now, let's break down how to solve this. Contacting the ball too low is caused by poor anticipation and a slow start. If your body's start is too slow when receiving a short forehand serve, you won't reach the ball in time. A slow start is caused by a stance that is too upright or has your weight on your heels, with no readiness for a forward lean. A forward-leaning posture gives pros an explosive first step. Amateurs, on the other hand, tend to stand flat-footed, so they're too slow to reach a short serve. Therefore, the first key to your ready position is to lower your center of gravity. Athletes crouch low to see the contact point clearly and to enable explosive forward movement. Amateurs have poor forward-backward footwork because their center of gravity isn't leaning forward. You can't move up quickly without crouching. If your weight is on your heels, you have to shift your weight first and then step, which is too slow. So, for service return, you must first ensure your body is leaning forward, mimicking the ready stance of a professional player. Every activity has its proper stance. A flight attendant has a welcoming bow. A model has a signature walk for the catwalk. In the same way, you need a professional ready stance for table tennis. So, your body posture must imitate that of a professional. First, widen your stance. Second, lean your upper body forward and position your hands in the middle. With this forward lean, you can easily move up for any short ball you read. Second, when receiving, you can use a single, explosive step to get into position. If one step is too difficult, you can use a two-step approach. In your ready position, step with your left foot toward the middle, then your right foot forward. This makes it much simpler. Step with your left foot to the middle, then your right foot forward, and you'll be in position instantly. The most difficult return is the short forehand, as it puts pressure on your long backhand and long forehand returns. Master this, and the overall difficulty of receiving drops by a third. As your level increases, more opponents will serve short to your forehand. To execute a quality long push from the short forehand, your contact point must be higher than the ball, creating a high to low motion to generate spin. If your motion is from back to front, it's just a lift, not an aggressive push. No matter how spinny the serve is, if you can get above the ball, you can push it long with a downward chopping motion. To achieve this high to low push, you must adjust your racket height based on the incoming ball's trajectory. If the opponent's serve is low, I raise my racket to a lower point. If it's higher, I raise my racket higher. The rule is, always get your racket above the ball. If your racket is behind the ball, your stroke will become a lift, and the return will have no spin. So, when you push, you must raise your racket and cut downwards to generate spin. You hit the net for two reasons. Your hand is too far from your body when you step in, and you're contacting the ball at a low point in its bounce. If you don't contact the ball at its peak, and instead hit it at a low point, you will hit the net. If your timing is late and the contact point is low, you can't use a downward push motion. You must side push it over. Only by finding the high point of the bounce can you truly execute a powerful long push. A flat push sends the ball forward. A downward push makes the ball dig into the table with no bounce, making it very difficult for the opponent to loop. The most critical element I control in my push is the distance to the ball. The more power you want to generate, the closer you must be to the ball. Watch how close I get to the ball. I actively move my feet to find the optimal contact point, not just swing my arm from a fixed position. Wherever the serve lands, my hand is there to meet it. Even for a short push, drop shot, you must be extremely close. If there's any space between you and the ball, you'll lose control, even for a professional. As long as I'm close, I can push aggressively because there's no forward momentum from my body, allowing me to focus all the quality into the stroke itself. Amateurs are afraid to push aggressively for two reasons. First, they misjudge the distance, using a long ball distance for a short ball return. The second reason is a secondary backswing after stepping in, pulling the racket back further than the elbow. Watch my arm. When I step in, it moves forward at a diagonal angle. My arm's structure remains consistent whether I'm pushing to the line or cross-court. Amateurs, however, add an unnecessary backswing. This extra backswing creates forward momentum with the ball, which inevitably causes the return to go long. I step in and push with a fixed angle. Notice my feet and distance, even when I flick. Amateurs use too large a motion and go out of bounds. The errors come from creating momentum with the ball and using too much arm in the stroke over too long a distance. The distance for a short forehand return is very small. You can't control the power with a long swing. You're forced to just touch or block the ball. Therefore, you must get close to the ball. Even with an exaggerated motion, if you're close, the ball won't go long. The closer you are to the ball, the the more concentrated your power is at contact. If you want the ball to stay low after the bounce, your stroke must have a downward angle. This will make the ball dig on the bounce, similar to the effect of a long pips rubber. If you just lift the ball forward, it will create a half-high ball, which is a perfect setup for your opponent to attack. No matter how low the serve is, I can still push it aggressively because I'm contacting it at a high point. By controlling the high contact point, even a small motion can produce a high-quality return that sinks on the opponent's side, making it very difficult to loop. This is why you use a tacky rubber on the forehand. Its high friction causes the looped ball to sink quickly after bouncing. The fourth key point, your fingers and wrist generate friction, while your forearm provides the acceleration. Some players ask if you should use your wrist. The answer is, absolutely. To generate any friction on the ball, your wrist must be engaged. The amount of friction you apply, however, is controlled by your fingers. If you only move your wrist without engaging your fingers, the ball will have no spin. The control comes from your fingers. Finger pressure doesn't mean squeezing the racket tightly with all 5 fingers. It means using your fingers, like your index finger, to guide the racket face down, up, or forward. It's not about suddenly clenching the racket. The tighter your grip, the less friction you can generate. Your fingers add the spin by guiding the wrist for a crisp snap at contact. That's how you make the ball spin. For instance, making the ball spin back over the net relies entirely on that short, explosive force from the fingers. Just by using your fingers, you can impart spin on the ball. Then, on top of that, add your forearm for power while the fingers do the same job. This makes the ball both fast and spinny. The forearm drives forward and downward, not just straight forward. A purely forward push will send the ball long. So, your stroke must have a downward component. After driving forward, finish with a downward angle. Notice that after I push, my racket face is pointing downwards. In contrast, amateurs often finish their push with the racket face pointing upwards. Furthermore, you must commit to that downward force to make the ball sink on the opponent's side. So, your force must be directed forward and down. Stop the motion when your forearm points at the table. This creates a very high-quality long push. The sixth point, never change your racket angle mid-stroke when you push. A push is not a curved motion, it's a straight cut through a single plane. Use a fixed racket angle. Whatever angle you have at contact, maintain it as you cut downwards. This isn't a serve, you don't need to wrap around the ball. This kind of extra motion is very common among amateur players. Don't start with your racket face too open. Against any spin, you'll hit the net. Once you hit the net with an open racket, your subconscious reaction will be to scoop the ball upwards. That's why your pushes make it over the net but have zero quality. Find your fundamental racket angle and lock it in. Do not change it. If the serve is high, I raise my arm higher, if it's low, I lower my arm. But my racket angle remains constant. Don't change your racket angle at the last second and lift the ball. Find your angle, then simply cut downwards. That's how you generate spin. Only by pushing this way can you produce high-quality long returns that target the baseline.